Hello and welcome to another costuming adventure with Vivian. That's me. I was invited to a Tudor holiday party to celebrate the birthday of my friend Sarah, La Dauphine Costuming. So she rented a hall, she had a dinner, and she invited people from all over to celebrate her birthday in grand style. So I will share more about that in this video. But first, let's talk about what I wore and what I made for this party. I decided that this was the perfect opportunity to have Rupert the Rake, aka my Tudor gentleman costume persona, come out again at this party, but I wanted him to have some extra accessories. So you may have seen in my previous pumpkin pants video, the Tudor ensemble I made where I had the pumpkin pants and the doublet, but this time I decided I wanted a cape and a hat. We all love a good cape. Since my cape is a half circle, to save myself some time drafting, I just used the vintage circle skirt pattern I already had. And you can see it's a half circle with a cutout for your waist, which I'm going to shrink a little to fit my neck. That means on your circle skirt pattern, you're actually going to cut something smaller like that. Another way to look at it visually, especially if you're dealing with a large unwieldy piece of fabric, is you're going to fold your pattern in half and put it on the fold of your fabric and then just draw a new line in. Smaller is better because you can always cut it larger if you need to later, but you can't go back. Cut out a half circle of velvet and also one of lining, which is a black cotton canvas. I tried it out first with a mock-up fabric. Sew the velvet and the lining together, sandwiching the gimp braid that you will be using as your ties for your cape closure. The collar is shaped kind of like a piece of macaroni. You're going to have two pieces of velvet plus a lining for a bit of structure. You machine sew one side of the collar to your cape, and then you're going to finish it by hand sewing. You're going to flip the raw edges of your fabric into each other, and then you're going to pin it shut before you sew it finished by hand. I have the trim pinned on. I cannot, however, machine sew this because the stitching is going to show on the other side. So you have two options. I can either hand sew this with gold thread or I can glue it. Hello, Editing Vivian, popping in to say a few things that I could have done differently or maybe should have done differently. The first question you probably have is, why didn't you just machine sew the trim on before you added the lining? The reason is velvet is squidgy, and I was afraid if I did that, the trim would wiggle. And also once I put the lining on, it would be even more obvious if there wasn't an even amount of space in between the trim and the edge of the cape. However, one thing I definitely should have done differently is instead of sewing on the collar before I put in any of the trim, I should have put in the trim so I could sandwich the raw edges in between the collar and the cape. I did notice that as I was putting on the trim that was close to the collar, so I had to unpick some of the stitches around that to insert the trim. Also, a problem for future Vivian is adding more trim, or rather more rows of that gold trim to the cape. I didn't have any more of that wide trim that I used on the doublet and the pumpkin pants. Let's move on to the hat. Fun fact, I used a laundry basket to trace out that circle. You're going to sew together one circle of velvet and one of lining, and eventually you'll gather it up for your crown. You'll want to take some measurements of your head to figure out the brim. You end up with 2 donuts I attached the lining to one and all the tarlatan to another one. You sew the donut together. Eventually you're going to flip it right side out, but first you're going to clip the curves inside so that you don't have excess bulk. And there you go, a very satisfying donut. Gather the crown until it looks like a dumpling that fits into the hole of your donut and machine sew those together. At this point, you're going to have something that resembles a mushroom, and what you have to do is fold over the raw edges, tuck them inside, and then you're going to whip stitch everything closed. It came out a little small, but I'll make it work. Sing, sweet nightingale, sing, sweet nightingale. Oh. Thank you so much for watching this video. I would appreciate it if you could like the video and maybe even share with your friends. But most importantly, if you love costuming adventures like I do, please hit that subscribe button because I will be sharing more wonderful things with you. Goodbye.